This lesson is on the order of operations. And the order of operations is simply a guidebook or a rule book that tells us how to evaluate questions or what order to evaluate any questions in. The first thing that we should do is parentheses. So one way to sort of remember the order is PEMA. You might have also heard PEMDAS or PEMDAS from other instructors. I don't like to include the D or the S, and I'll explain as I get to those. But P does stand for parentheses, and so what we're going to do is we're going to perform any operations within grouping symbols. So parentheses might be regular parentheses like this. You might also have brackets that are on the outside of something that contains parentheses, in which case you would do the parentheses inside the brackets first and then work your way out. If there is a division bar, this is very, very important. If there is a division bar, treat it as parentheses also. So if I have something happening up here and something happening down here, I'm going to basically pretend that these are both in parentheses and evaluate those before I do anything else. Exponents, we just learned about what exponents are. We're going to evaluate those in addition to anything that has a square root. Multiplication and division, we're going to go from left to right. And the reason I don't include the D here like so many instructors do is because I found that some of my students would go through and do all of the multiplication and then go through and do all of the division. And so just remember that M represents multiplication and division. So those will go from left to right, multiplication, division. Once you're done with all of that, you should just have values that are being added or subtracted. So that comes last is addition. Oops. S stands for subtraction. Addition, subtraction would then go last. So you would just go from left to right. Be very careful that you go from left to right and not just group things randomly. So let's do a couple together. Again, the first thing is P for parentheses. There are no parentheses here. So I'm going to move on to the next one, which is exponents. There are no exponents here also. So now I'm going to go to the next one, which is multiplication, division. Now I see that I've got some division here and some multiplication here, and they are separated by this minus sign. So because they're separated, I can go ahead and evaluate what 24 divided by 12 is, or 2 is, which is 12. And I can go ahead and evaluate what 4 times 2 is, which is 8. I'm stumbling over my words. We're going to go ahead and work through these together using the order of operations. So again, first I'm going to start with parentheses, but I don't have any parentheses in this question. I also don't have exponents in this question, so I go straight to M, which is multiplication and division. Again, I'm going to go left to right for multiplication division. So I see right away I've got a 24 divided by 2, which is 12. There's often a question as to, can I go ahead and multiply 4 times 2 in this question as well? And the answer is yes, you can, and here's why. Notice that these are separated by a subtraction sign, which means we know we're waiting till the end of the question to deal with the subtraction, but I can go ahead and take 4 times 2 to get 8. Now all of my multiplication and division is done. And then I'm just going to take 12 minus 8 to get 4, and that's going to be my final answer. Now, originally, if I would have evaluated the 12 and not yet done the 4 times 2, I would still then go back through and notice that I still have multiplication or division. I would have then, at that point, taken 4 times 2 to get 8 and still ended up with an answer of 4. I would have just had one extra step. Over here, remember, in a division situation like this, we're going to just pretend that the numerator and the denominator are both in parentheses. So 2 plus 6, I'm going to evaluate to 8. And in the denominator, there are no parentheses, there's no exponents, but I do have some multiplication division. So this is 16 minus 4 times 3, which is 12. I can go ahead and evaluate 16 minus 12 to get 4 because, again, I can't do any division until I finish the parentheses. And then 8 divided by 4, remember fractions are just division. 8 divided by 4 is 2, and that's my solution. This question is obviously more difficult, but we will work through it together using the order of operations. So the first thing in the order of operations is parentheses. And if you'll notice, I've got a bracket and then I've got parentheses within the bracket. So again, brackets are parentheses around other parentheses. I will go ahead and evaluate that. At the same time, even though the parentheses are not written here for 16 minus 7, I know that in order to be able to take the square root of something, I need to go ahead and evaluate 16 minus 7. So I'm going to put parentheses around that as well. So first step is to just rewrite everything that doesn't get used. And the students that try to skip over that step or to save themselves some writing and just cross things off and write them above, I find that they often make mistakes in their order of operations. So don't be lazy, write it out. Here I have 2 plus 4, and then the parentheses are 8 minus 6, which is 2. Everything else is recopied. And then here, 16 minus 7 is 9. So that's first step for the parentheses. Now, I don't have parentheses left, but I do have brackets, and brackets are just parentheses. I could have written them as parentheses this time, but before I can do anything with the 200, I still have to evaluate everything that's going on in here. So again, I have a lot of students who want to take 2 plus 4 at this point, but within the parentheses, I'm still following the order of operations, which is that multiplication must happen before I do addition. So 4 times 2 is 8, and everything else is recopied. 2 plus 8 is 10. Everything else is recopied. And now finally, I don't have any operations left within parentheses. Now I have exponents. Remember, exponents would be like 10 squared. So 10 squared would be 10 times 10, 2 times, which is 100. And in the same step that I would do exponents, I would also do the square root of 9, which is 3. Then I would move on to multiplication division, which I don't have any, so I get to skip it and go straight to addition subtraction. Remember, I'm going left to right, so please don't take 100 plus 3 and then take it away from 200. Left to right would be 200 minus 100, which is 100, and then 100 plus 3 is 103. Our next question is a fraction. Remember, fraction questions mean I evaluate all of the top and all of the bottom before I deal with the division of the fraction. So on the top, the numerator, I have parentheses, which is 7 minus 5, which gives me 8 plus 7 minus 5, which is 2, plus 11. And on the denominator, 2 minus 1 is 1. Notice I'm still going to evaluate all of that before I deal with the division. So on the numerator, 8 plus 2 plus 11 is 21. My denominator is 1 squared. 1 times 1 is 1. 21 divided by 1 is 21. And that is my solution. Here's one for you to try on your own, and then press play to see how you did. On this question, the first thing I should do is the parentheses. So I'm going to evaluate 42 minus 33, which is 9. And that is parentheses. Now I have exponents, which is next. My exponent is 9 squared, or 81. Again, no multiplication or division, so I go straight to addition subtraction, left to right. I add those together to get 85, and 85 minus 3 is 82.